Hello, this is Monday, 8 June 2015. Welcome to episode number 51 of the Vanguard Report. This is the home of critical non-feminism. If you are not a feminist and you take an actively critical stance toward feminism, then the Vanguard Report is just the place for you. You are on the cutting edge of every trend in the world that seeks to dismantle feminism or even shows the potential to do so. All roads lead to Rome, right? Now, dismantling feminism, that's a complicated question. There are so many different kinds of feminism running around in the world, saying different things, attacking you in different ways, operating by different sets of rules, and even philosophically contradicting each other. So what does it mean to dismantle feminism? Well, it means to dismantle all of them. We work on the idea that beneath all of this pseudo-false variety of feminisms, which are meant only to blow smoke in your eyes and confuse you, beneath all of that clutter, all of that confusion, there is really only a very simple primordial feminism. And we direct our attention and our effort to attacking that root of feminism. That's how we think, that's how we approach things, that's how we go about our work. So, I am Fiedelbogen, I'm your host, as usual, here on episode number 51 of the Vanguard Report, and with me, once more as usual, is my fellow host, a man of Canada, a true son of the Alberta Prairie, known as Nick Redding. Nick, say hello.
Hi everybody, my name is Nick Redding. I'm with Men's Rights Edmonton. I have a very sensitive microphone and a dog who has just been for a long walk, so you may hear her panting in the background. Please bear with that. Men's Rights Edmonton is it's an entity that exists to attract people of like mind in regards to feminism and men's rights. And men's issues here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. So if you live in Edmonton and you're sympathetic to these the things that we're discussing on this show, or the things that are posted on EBFM, or you know someone there, or you're going to be stopping by, drop us a line through the Contact Us section at mensrightsedmonton.com. Now, Fiedelbogen, you were saying just now that we defeat feminism by addressing the roots, right? Is that correct?
We try to, yes.
Now, how would you define that root?
How would I define that root? Well, I'll say what I always say. The easiest and shortest road to get to Rome here is to know that feminism is the project to increase the power of women, or as they like to say, to empower women.
And you also, I know that you typically you usually add on to that it's the project to increase the power of women with no upper limit, no stated upper limit, no off switch.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I left that out. Yeah, it's a perpetual motion machine with no off switch.
That's fine.
They're not clear about, well, what are the goalposts? Because, of course, the goalposts are mounted on wheels, and they keep rolling and rolling and rolling.
Yeah, and we're seeing more of that now, and more and more of that now, because, as non-feminists and men's rights activists and MGTOW and everybody else points out, there are no legal rights that men have and women don't, and in fact, in many first world countries, if not all of them, there are rights that women have that men do not. And so when now they're saying equality, you'll talk to them and they'll say equality isn't just about rights, not just about legal rights or
I've heard that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
rights
I've heard them say that. Yeah.
yeah, or rights aren't just legal rights, which technically is true. But it's they're I think they're using the fluidity of that word in an
They are.
inappropriate and underhanded way.
While you're talking about fluidity, it's like a mountain stream running down out of the mountains in a very clear channel, and then hitting the lowlands at the foot of the mountains and spreading out and turning into a swamp.
Yeah, everything is incredibly fluid with these people. Like Girl Writes What Says, it's like sword fighting a fart, right? And it does. Whenever I talk with them, and reality just changes around. I really am reminded of the scene in 1984 when Winston Smith is in the Ministry of Love, and the guy is asking him, how far away are the stars? And he's telling him, well, the answer is they can be millions of miles away, or they can just be pinholes in the sky. It just matters what we say when we're saying it. That's all.
That's a pretty good description of how feminism operates. It just matters what they say, how they're saying it, and it changes from day to day, even from minute to minute.
Oh yeah, not even minute to minute. You don't have to wait that long. I mean, I talk a lot about the times that I.
Well, I'm patient. I can wait that long.
I brought the male feminists back to my place, and on the way, I was saying, that the feminist community in Edmonton was saying that Men's Rights Edmonton is making things unsafe for women, and they were going, oh no, they're not saying that at all. They were staunchly denying that. And I said, we have it on video, and then they went right to, well, you are. They went from that's ridiculous to that's correct in a second, and they didn't. And it was just like a complete mental gymnastic trick for them. But anyway, the definition that you give is the project to increase the power of women with no stated upper limit. I define it somewhat differently because when I talk to feminists and they give me this, there's all these different kinds of feminisms. The root, as I see it, is the belief that women currently get or have historically gotten the short end of the stick, right? Because when you hear a feminist define feminism, they'll give you, of course, as we all know, the dictionary definition, and it's
equality. Interestingly, I was just having a little bit of an argument on Twitter just before the show started here with a couple of feminists about what is feminism, and they were throwing the dictionary definition at me. But anyway, go on, Nick. Go on.
And the thing is, when they say that they're pursuing the feminism is the pursuit of equality, legal and social equality between the sexes. And but what they leave out is
equality is a very fluid concept, very.
And also but I mean when I made my video, I am anti-feminist. That's it. And I said that I challenge people to come up with a definition for equality. Both Barbarossa and Razorblade Candy came back with pretty much the same definition of equality, and that's a definition that I would agree with, or that I would say is valid, and it's certainly.
Can you refresh my memory on what they said equality was?
Basically, what we all recognize as equality of opportunity.
Equality of opportunity, which is something which is at least finite and tangible.
Equality under the law.
You can codify that. You can codify that, and you can bring it to some kind of an end. You can say, okay, we've fulfilled conditions A, B, C, and now we have equality.
Yeah.
Whereas the way they do it is it just goes on into infinity.
Yeah, and there are a lot of very reasonable people who adhere to the definition of equality given by Barbar and Razorblade Candy, but as we know, when we're dealing with feminists, they play on that common understanding of equality. So rational people go, yeah, equality, it's good, it's common sense. But then, of course, they have the true their church has given them the true understanding of equality, You know, and it's of course it's just whatever they need at that particular
And it's
point.
whatever they say it is. It's, you know, they look into their scripture and they preach a different sermon every week.
Yeah, but
Whatever they need to preach.
but the thing is, when they say that it's the pursuit of equality between the sexes, they're coming at it with the unstated premise that women are historically oppressed. So because everything that we just discussed there is a huge mouthful, right? It was like 5 minutes of dialogue just to cover that. I find that it really streamlines the process to identify feminism as the belief that women currently get or have historically gotten the short end of the stick. I think that's fair to say.
That's a good definition. It's useful. You can use that one sometimes in a conversation where it's more adapted.
Yeah, because the only feminists you're going to find who don't believe in that stuff are feminists like Christina Hoff Sommers and Wendy McElroy and Camille Paglia.
Okay. They don't believe in equality, are you saying?
Saying that they don't believe in patriarchy. They don't. What I mean is they don't believe that unstated premise that of women's current and historic oppression.
Right.
Right, and so when you're dealing
the short end of the stick, you're right.
and so when you're dealing with feminists and they throw that at you, they go, oh well, there's all these different kinds. You go, well, you know, I mean, then you're really not going to find the type of you're going to be hard pressed to find a feminist who doesn't believe that. It's like saying, you know, there's all different kinds of Christians, and they have all these different kinds of arguments over all these little different doctrines, and a lot of them are completely radically different from each other. But it is fair to say that you can define a Christian as someone who believes that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. For
Okay.
all of their doctrinal differences, you can the word the definition of the word definition is that there is a finite meaning to what you're saying. If you saturate a word so that it just means whatever, then it has no meaning at all.
Yeah, definition draws a line. Definition is what makes things definite.
So when they throw that up at you, they're just obfuscating. And a perfect response is, you know, there's Fetal Bogan's thing about your thing rather about the project to increase the power of women with no state.
That definition is better applied to feminism as a whole, because individual feminists can say, no, I don't agree with that, or they might think they don't agree with that in their own minds. But if you look at feminism as a social organism and the direction in which it's all collectively heading, it is always moving towards some imaginary point on the horizon where women have more power, and then more power and more power.
Justified by the belief that they are, you know, to put it as feminists put it. I'm going to turn on my camera here. To put it as feminists put it, is that, you know, like, men are up here and women are down here, right? That's how they that's the premise, that all of this this machine to increase the power of women is justified by, right? The belief that there's still not that equality thing. So if you're going to attend, to bring it all back down to the thing that got me going here is, if you're going to address the root of feminism, you have to address the hateful lie that women currently get or have historically gotten the short end of the stick. And, you know, there is Godwin. I'm going to wrap this up here because I know we got a show to get on to. But there is Godwin's law, and everybody accuses their opponents of being like the Nazis. But the thing that Hitler is known to have used to justify all this anti-Semitic hatred was his doctrine of the stab in the back. Right, the belief that the Jews had betrayed the real Germans, the other Germans out there, and so they had to pay for what they had done. Patriarchy theory and this notion of women getting having been oppressed, it is just one giant assertion that we've been stabbing women in the back, and therefore it justifies all the hatred that we see coming out of these people along those exact same lines. So when you're dealing with what I define as feminism, the notion that women currently get or have historically gotten the short end of the stick, you are dealing with hateful propaganda, and it is important to call it out as such. The same way, if you were to hear someone talk about how Jews stabbed Germans in the back, or talk about how any other bigoted stuff out there that receives a real that receives real social censure for saying should be applied to that notion, because you can dance around like feminists, they're very fluid and things like that, but that is the one ground that they will never give up, because once you get rid of that, you get rid of the justification for all of their nonsense.
Well, equality for one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, their constant harping upon equality really harks back to the idea that women have gotten or are getting the short end of the stick. Hence the need for this nebulous thing called equality. And there's a whole conversation right there about what is equality. And I know we've talked about that before. Really, it's a word that should be banished from our vocabulary unless we are talking about 2 + 2 = 4 and all that sort of thing. It really should be limited to the realm of mathematics.
Agreed. I have to change my dog's water, so go on with the show. I'll be right back.
Go on with the show. Okay. Well, cue number 1 on your cue list. Got a little something to talk about here. We will look at this as we normally do. We like to look at things on the internet. Cue number 1 on your cue list. I'm going to read this off to you. It is, I don't know, emblematic of something. This is from Metro News, Canada. Edmonton cyclist denied entry to bike shop, quote, based on gender. Nick, are you back yet? Guess not. Okay. On a recent Sunday evening, John, who asked for his full name to be withheld, was riding his bike with his wife and 2 daughters. The family needed bike parts and was interested in buying a bike, so they rode to the Edmonton Bicycle Commuters Society's Bike Works South near White Avenue. But at the volunteer-staffed shop, people at the Bike Works allegedly told John he couldn't come inside, yet his wife could. I was denied entry based on gender. I was surprised, he said. Despite an open for business sign, John said he was barred entry because of the Society's Women, Trans, and Gender Non-Binary program that was being held at the shop that Sunday. The Sunday afternoon program is held 3 times a month and allows individuals identifying with those specific groups to participate in what the Society's website describes as a safe space at Bike Works. A safe space. If you do not identify as woman, trans, or non-binary, you can support this important initiative by respecting the space and not entering during the Women, Trans, and Gender Non-Binary program, reads the Society's website. Regardless, John said he felt excluded based on gender and has filed a complaint with the Alberta Human Rights Commission solely because of his exclusion, not because of the program. I have no problem with the program that is trying to get women, transgendered, and non-binary people in there, but don't segregate, he said. This is not the first time Edmonton Bicycle Commuters has heard complaints from people who felt barred from entering the shop during the program, which started in 2010. Said Chris Chan, Executive Director of EBC. But Chan said this program and others that the group runs cater to specific demands from local cyclists. We offer a range of classes and programs because not everyone feels comfortable in every single situation all the time, he said. It's about finding that balance and making sure our shop is affordable and accessible, but still providing a service to as many people as possible. I don't think we can provide a single unified service that everybody would feel comfortable with all the time at the same time. Boy, they know how to make life complicated there, don't they? Chan said the Society is examining all of its programs to see if they are most effectively meeting the needs of cyclists. We certainly are looking at this program and constantly thinking about it, and we are thinking about it more at the moment. We've updated our wording on our website so there's less confusion about what the program is. I think that's a lot of it. In their own words, according to Edmonton Bicycle Commuters Society, here's what the EBC's website says about why they have a woman, trans, and gender non-binary bike repair program. Studies show that a 3-to-1 ratio of male to female cyclists. Studies show a 3-to-1 ratio of male to female cyclists, meaning women are outnumbered. And the numbers are even more imbalanced in the world of bike repair. Okay, I guess that's some inequality there. They need to get equal numbers of men and women on bicycles. Is that what they're saying? I don't know. Mechanical repair has traditionally been a male-dominated field. Well, those evil bastard men dominating that field. Bike repair shops are often staffed entirely by male mechanics, and genders may be treated differently, sometimes in subtle ways. Oh, you can't have that. You've got to treat them all exactly equally, I guess.
And now we're treating people differently in not so subtle ways by having a special day just for them not to come.
Nick, did you just get back?
I've been listening for a while.
Okay.
I was made aware of this before. Actually, it was on this thing was featured on Sargon's This Week in Stupid today. Actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Bike repair shops are often staffed entirely by male mechanics, and genders may be genders. Come on, it's sexes, not genders. Even people who should know better, they say genders when they should say sexes. Okay, anyway, it says, and genders may be treated differently, sometimes in subtle ways. Our Women, Trans, and Gender Non-Binary program helps reduce barriers to bringing more women, trans, and non-binary persons into our shop, which helps EBC to train and recruit non-male mechanics for public shop days, making those days more welcoming for everyone. Boy, they sure do have an itch for just making the male-female ratio perfect everywhere, exactly balanced everywhere, just imposing that 50-50 ratio everywhere, and death to anything that's a little bit off, like if it's 40-60 or 30-70. Mo can't have that. It's just got to be strictly 50-50 everywhere you go. That's part of what they mean by equality. Anyway, that's the article. And Nick, I know you and I talked about this a little bit earlier. My position, and I think your position also, is that they have a perfect right, the business owners here have a perfect right to be doing this.
Yeah, and this is, several episodes ago, we read that article, that Note Hub article, the one about the way social justice warriors behave as opposed to...
Yeah, their hierarchical social structure that they impose on everybody else, not just themselves.
Yeah, and they go around, they imperialize, or they basically assimilate the culture one facet at a time. So they go through churches, they go through atheist groups, they go through music subcultures.
They go through the Model Railroad Club, they go through every discernible or definable human community you can imagine. This is otherwise known as the Long March through the institutions, or Long March through the culture.
Yeah, and so with the Edmonton bike commuter thing, these people do have a perfect right to do that. Well, I mean, not legally. They probably are breaking some kind of law. But I'm a lot of people might take issue with me with this. I actually do support businesses' right to be as um, prejudiced and I mean
Discriminatory.
discriminatory, even to the point of bigotry. Frankly, they have a right to do that, and anybody who has a problem with it has a right to set up a business with a business or an organization that doesn't stand for that. And that's the only that's the not only is it the only solution, that's the best solution. Or
I would tend to agree, Nick. I would tend to agree.
put it the other way around. So the thing is, you look at the atheist community. The best.
Pardon me, but would you draw the line at public institutions and public services?
Yeah, I absolutely would. If they're public, then
Right.
yeah.
But in the well, I guess what we call civil society or private life, that's a separate realm.
Yeah, if you, I mean, if you want to have, a building, that only members of your religion can enter, then I think you should be allowed to have that right. Your religion, or even if the KKK wanted to set something up and said
Using the term religion very broadly to mean is any kind of belief.
Yeah, belief,
social or cultural.
Yeah, or even if it's based on
biological affinity, biological traits, any.
Yeah, in this case, it is men being discriminated against, and I'm fine with that.
Pardon me for cutting in here. As long as men have equal right to discriminate against women.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if somebody wants to set up a bike a bike community, a bike co-op that doesn't have the social justice crap in it, then, and I don't mean setting up a bike community that discriminates against trans or women or gays. Although I mean, technically that would be okay. It's not something I would join even if I was a cyclist. But just setting up another cycling community that doesn't have any socio-political agenda beyond biking, beyond
computer gaming or model railroading.
Yeah, whatever it is, and if you are in
atheism.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who's a Catholic, and he had to sit through a seminar on Catholic social justice. So there, and he stood up, and it was taught at his church by or I don't know if it was at the church or at some building of the church. Anyway, it was in a in a religious community. It was taught by a sociologist from the U of A. And he stood up. He's in with my men's rights stuff, and he stood up and he called bullshit, and a few people stood up and agreed with him. But the thing is, if there's no dissent in your community, these people are just going to steamroll right through. And so
yes, everybody who's listening right now, it's easier to stand up to these people than you think.
Yeah, and the thing is,
you stand up, if you show any kind of backbone, they fold a lot quicker than you think they might.
Because they're bullies. They're total paper tigers. They are. That's why, like, their arguments for a long time have just been stop arguing, stop fighting, because they know that if there's a fight, they're going to lose. So they're trying to paint us all kinds of nasty things just for showing up to a fight that they've been engaging, that they've been waging for a long time.
Well, if you start a fight or start a war, at some point, somebody's going to shoot back. You need to expect that. Metaphorically shooting back. I'm talking about real bullets here. Okay.
And so what happened? And so what happened in Gamergate and both the atheist community, I think, are excellent case studies of social justice warriors and feminists coming in and trying their little fucking body snatcher routine. Okay. And then people woke up to that. And actually, I say body snatcher routine because if you watch the old, there have been several versions of the movie Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Right.
Now, I can't remember how the old black and white one ended, but the 1970s one ended with the aliens winning, and they were able to spread their they were able to replace humans on a fast enough scale and on a subtle enough scale that by the time anybody figured it out, they were completely outnumbered and unable to fight back. And then in the one that came out recently in the 2000s or in the 20 teens, it ended with the U.S. military figured out what was going on before it spread too far, and they were able to fight off the infection, and humanity survived. But the 2000s version is what happened in atheism and video games, right? Is that enough people woke up and saw what was going on, and they saw people they were close to, or people that they used to like, just going completely bonkers and being someone that they did not know.
I've had this experience, by the way. I've had this experience.
Yeah, and it's like in it's like that scene in the old 1970s version when there's that Chinese laundromat owner, and he's saying that his wife isn't who she's supposed to be, right? And people think he's crazy. They think he's losing his mind, and they come back the next day and they've seen more cases, and they come back and he's going, "Oh no, everything's fine," because he's one of them too now, or he's one of them now too. But the thing is, if you stand up and you say this is bullshit, you'll find that people who also thought it was bullshit they just didn't know that they could say anything, or they were too scared. They'll be emboldened and they'll come to your side. And what you can do is you can rebuild your community, whatever it is, sans social justice, and now you're inoculated. So your community can see it coming if they try a second time.
Okay.
But with every community, no matter what it is, the best thing to do is not to take it on. This guy taking this complaint to the Human Rights Commission, it's not going to work. It's not going to function.
Talking about the bicycle thing here, no, I recommend that he doesn't do that. Well, I can't tell him what to do, but
if him and other cyclists in Edmonton have a problem with this, then the thing is not trying to reform this institution. It's not going to work because it's totally it's beyond the point of salvation.
No, I wouldn't recommend that this man try to fight what the bicycle shop is doing.
Yeah, just start up. Just get in touch with other.
Start his own bicycle shop and exclude who he wants to exclude from his business.
Yeah,
as long as everybody can do that equally, that balances things out more than trying to enforce this equality thing everywhere, which is a bottomless pit anyway. So, moving right ahead in the program here. I was going to say a few things. This latest article that we read about the bicycle shop inspired a few thoughts for me. Now, as we have suggested, I and Nick here, we are perfectly okay with what the bike shop owners are doing. They can set up their special time and place where they keep men out, or people in a certain category, which includes pretty much all men here. They're private business owners, and it's up to them to run their business as they see fit. And that includes barring from their premises certain people at certain times, or even at all times if they wish. So let's enlarge on the scope of that a little bit and see what the implications are if you push it as far as you can push it. Now, to formulate a universal maxim, let us say that if X is permissible for Group A, then X is permissible for Group B under analogous conditions. And we've seen this in the case of the bicycle shop owners. They, Group A, wanted to exclude men, Group B, from their place of business at certain times. Now, a men's rights advocate might want to take those people to court and force them to let men into their store on all occasions during business hours. No doubt they would manipulate existing laws and precedents in regard to discrimination or the like, and if they were successful, they would bend the bike shop owners to their will, along with any other business establishment that might try similar things in the future. Now, not being a men's rights advocate, I have no interest in promoting men's rights. Others are welcome to do this. They have my blessing. But I am interested only in what will damage feminism. So I am perfectly fine with women setting up female spaces that will exclude males at certain times and places. I have no problem with that. Ladies, go for it. Feminists, are you listening? I am agreeing with you about something. How do you like that? I realize that woman-only space is a feminist device to empower women, and I realize that by thwarting this, one could thwart feminist plans, up to a point. However, I don't believe that is the best way to go about damaging feminism. There are ways to do more damage more efficiently, and I want to look into this. So I do not and will not challenge the right to create female spaces where males are excluded. You want to have a health spa, a gymnasium club for women only, fine with me. Fine with me. However, in return for this, I would insist upon the right to create male spaces where females are excluded. Men only this, men only that, and men only social clubs. Feminists, this is where we get down to the nitty-gritty, isn't it? I am totally in favor of men's clubs or boys' clubs in various forms. And by that I mean that I am totally in favor of this in principle. In principle. As a philosopher, I can see no moral objection to such a thing. Hence, if you want to form a men's club or boys' club, you have my blessing. And I will lend whatever support I can if somebody tries to hinder you. And I do not speak on behalf of the so-called men's rights movement, since I'm not a member of that movement. I am friends with many members of that movement, but I am not a member myself. Hence, I am not motivated by any desire to promote so-called men's rights or to address so-called men's issues. I do not promote men's rights, I just expose feminism's wrongs in order to damage feminism to the point of collapse by wounding it in the PR game. And for me, men's rights are only a means to an end. And the end is to damage feminism, to bring it into the same disrepute as racism, as Nick would say, and other kinds of damage as well. And I know in my pragmatic, calculating mind that whatever empowers men will powerfully undermine the feminist project. The whole feminist project is to increase the power of women. And that goes hand in glove with taking power away from men. You empower men, or you prevent men from having power taken away from them, then you undermine the feminist project. You slow it down until it grinds to a halt. And the feminist project, as we know, is to empower women with no limit and no stipulated endpoint. So, let's hear it for male space. And I have a little idea that I'd like to share here. Maybe to get the ball rolling on this male space thing in order to undermine the feminist power structure, because that's what it would do. How about somebody out there, I'm just tossing the idea out there for anybody who wants to take it up and run with it. Somebody out there should form a men's club and call it the Society to Preserve Male Space. And then write their charter or their manifesto explaining exactly what they are and what they're trying to do, stipulating that it is an organization for men only, that women are excluded, and that the nature of the organization is political, that they wish to promote the idea of male space, and they wish to encourage the growth of male-only space, you know, times and places with men only and no women. They want to encourage the growth of that trend in society, and that the society to, what did I call it? The Society to Preserve Male Space exists precisely for that purpose. And they could try establishing this organization on some really ripe ground, like, say, for example, a college campus. We want to form a club, a men's-only club. This is the Society to Preserve Male Space, and we want to make this a student organization. Now, I'd like to see somebody try that and see how far they get. Nick, how far do you think they would get with something like that?
I think that they would be instantly compared to the Ku Klux Klan. And the first people to say that would be the people, would be feminists.
Of course.
Women who push for female space, female-only space all the time. Just like what we've seen with this, I mean, I think with allowing this whole women, trans, and non-binary people is just it's, you know, they're allowing these things because they don't want a woman-only, or they don't want to come across as having a woman-only space. You know, I mean, I don't know. Never mind. Ignore me.
Okay. All right. Well, if you want to be ignored, so. I'd like to, excuse me, I'd like to see somebody try that. Somebody on a campus somewhere, maybe in Toronto, someplace like that. We want to form the Society to Preserve Male Space. We want to charter this as a student organization. They should do that. They should attempt to do that. They will, of course, know going into it that they're going to be shot down, but they should try it anyway, and they should keep records. They should chronicle the whole thing from start to finish, and then they should try to bring the spotlight of publicity to bear upon what they are doing. Try to get some publicity. Try to get some media. Try to get some press for this. And if they don't succeed, they can take a break and go back and try again. And then somebody somewhere else can try the same thing somewhere else again and get shot down again. And yet just get a whole chain reaction of people everywhere doing this project on college campuses, because that's a logical place to do it. And keep records. Keep records of everything. And make this a thing. Make this a trend. And make it famous in order to focus the spotlight, in order to focus the public mind and the public conversation upon this issue. Eventually they're going to succeed, but they need to keep hammering away at it. And even if they don't succeed, there is some benefit to be gained from this in terms of the publicity and in terms of steering the conversation in a particular direction. So, how do you like that idea? Go to your local university campus if you're a student and start a society to preserve male space and try to charter that as a student organization and have fun and keep records of everything that happens. Yes, I think that male space, the right of men, male people in general, to gather in the absence of women should be a sacrosanct cultural institution. Sacred, holy, not merely tolerated, but celebrated and embraced as a good thing. and we can get into the reasons why it's a good thing some other time. But even though I am not a men's rights advocate, I'm just a guy who wants to tear down feminism. But in my calculating mind, I do support the idea of male space, and I would like to see it established as a cultural institution, because I know that by doing this, it will be a powerful force for tearing down feminism. And that's about all I got to say about that. Nick, you want to wrap it up with anything?
No. You said we can get into the reasons as to why it's important another time, so we'll do that.
All right. Some other time. Let's move the program right along. Cue number 2. This was an article, a rather short article, posted by Dean Esme recently on AVFM. And it, well, kind of puts us on notice about the signs of the times. I'd like to share the article with you right now. This is, did I get that right? Yep, that's cue number 2. The name of the article is Alert. Wait a minute. My browser has not been cooperative. Here we go. Alert. Growing whispering campaigns against critics of gynocentrism. Posted at AVFM on June 2nd, 2015 by Dean Esme. Dean says, I see that Sargon of Akkad, who is not an MRA the last we checked, is being subjected to a whisper campaign. Similar whisper campaigns run regularly about men's rights advocates. If you don't know politics much, especially American politics, it may surprise you, but the whisper campaign is a classic dodge that many politicians have used successfully to defeat their opponents. Feminists are really good with whispering campaigns, by the way. And, well, they are politicians. I mean, they practice politics. But whisper campaigns aren't just done against politicians. They're run against anyone in a powerful political establishment who wants to silence critics. And while it's not clear that the lying liar who calls himself Mr. TARDIS Reviews is such a paid stooge, odds are he's been listening to other paid stooges at minimum. And here we see a link to a video by Sargon of Akkad, which you may want to listen to. We daily see people saying things about A Voice for Men and or various members of our staff that are not true. We also see people online pretending to be MRAs advocating all sorts of crazy shit. We can frequently follow them and discover they are really sock puppets, new accounts with no history. Sometimes they come out and outright impersonate us. The YouTuber Red Pill Philosophy, whom we have no issues with, by the way, we don't agree with everything he says, but more power to him, got a letter not long ago claiming to be from A Voice for Men, declaring that AVFM created and owned the concept of the red pill, and everyone must join AVFM, and other total garbage that we never said and do not believe. In fact, AVFM has never made any such claim, and we fully believe not everyone should be a men's rights advocate. And even if you are one, you owe us nothing, except, hopefully, not to lie about us. Here's what I think is really happening. For years now, all of this energy was put on MRAs. The problem is, MRAs have been increasingly successful by refusing to shut up in the face of lies and shaming. We've shown the wider culture that, yes, feminism is not God. And yes, by God, you can criticize it without being a misogynist, a woman beater, a rapist, etc. I want to read that again. We've shown the wider culture that, yes, Feminism is not God. Feminism is not God. And yes, by God, you can criticize it without being a misogynist, a woman beater, a rapist, etc. So the result is the prejudiced people and those running the whisper campaigns are having to regularly widen the circle of people they attack. This must be frustrating for them. Here we go. This paragraph is, I think, the most important thing in the entire article. Feminism is not God. By God, you can criticize it without being a misogynist, etc. Those running the whisper campaigns are having to regularly widen the circle of people they attack. There we go. They have to widen the circle of people they attack because anti-feminism is going mainstream. It's getting out there into the wider culture. And boy, talk about widening the circle that you have to attack. The circles are growing and growing and growing. And it's like, well, you get a rubber band effect here. I mean, how far can you stretch a rubber band? Only so far, and then it breaks. But I put this out as a warning for all. Expect more of this. Indeed, expect more of it. Expect fakers pretending to be well-known critics of feminism. Expect fakers who repeat debunked lie after debunked lie about critics of feminism or just critics of gynocentrism. There are people...
Hold on, I do want to say, or sorry, I'll let you finish up the article and then I want to say something.
All right. There are people pretending to speak for AVFM. They do not. There are people who claim to be MRAs who are not and can be easily proven as fakers when they use throwaway accounts and or get called on the carpet by actual MRAs. Do we claim we can say who is and is not an actual MRA? No, although we claim expertise in what a real MRA looks like. Sargon isn't one of them. Neither are a lot of phony sock puppets claiming to be MRAs while behaving like boors. But feminism especially is a multi-billion-dollar multinational enterprise. The underlying gynocentrism that it depends on is also alive and well, and will also accuse you of misogyny if you just commit the sin of behaving as if women can be accountable adults. I don't know if there's much more we need to say here, except that we expect other non-MRAs like Sargon to be subjected to the same whisper campaigns we have over the years. There's nothing much to be done about it except to recognize that it's a real thing. It's not paranoia, and you can usually identify the fakers by their words and actions. So don't be paranoid, but be on the lookout. End of article. Nick?
Now it is important to the video that's linked to there has been taken down because Mr. TARDIS Reviews did apologize. He admitted he was talking out of his ass, and that he somehow the idea got into his head that Sargon had said something when he hadn't. And what this whole thing that went on between Sargon of Akkad and Mr. TARDIS Reviews, because Sargon of Akkad, he's very gentlemanly. You know, he did the same thing when the I can't remember his name, the Asian guy who said that
Arthur Chu?
No.
Sean?
Yeah.
The one who apologized.
Yeah. When he apologized for the terrible things he had been saying, and when Mr. TARDIS Reviews apologized for the things he had been saying, Sargon of Akkad accepted their apology quite graciously. So would I if any of the people who have who lied about Men's Rights Edmonton came out and said, "Sorry, we were full of shit." Right? I wouldn't continue to identify them as people who had lied about me, or I would I mean, I wouldn't identify them as people who were in the wrong. And like with feminists and social justice warriors, I've seen other people recognize this too. They seem to think that like normally if someone is wrong and they admit that they're wrong and they're kind of they feel kind of sheepish and whatever, but usually that's seen as a very gracious thing to do, to admit that you're wrong. With these people, they seem to think that if someone admits that they're wrong, that only makes their situation worse. And we can see that in the way they treated that scientist who
Matt Taylor.
Yeah, like who broke down crying, right? And then after he breaks down crying and he's apologizing for what he did, you have Matt Binder making a video saying, "Oh well, there you go. He apologized for it. That's proof. There you go. He knows that what he did was wrong, right?" So but it was he knew that what he was doing, like wearing the sexist shirt, was so bad. They just keep going after you. If you admit that you're wrong, they don't let up and say, "Okay, you're forgiven." And I think they fully expect to be treated that way too. If they admit that they're wrong, then they know that if they admit that they're wrong, that their friends will disown them. Because admitting that they're wrong means admitting that the whole narrative is wrong. So they're not going to do that. But it is very analogous to what happened between myself and Liana Kersner recently, except she didn't apologize. She gave what feminists always do. They give an unpology, right? They know they're
an unpology, right?
They know they're on the spot, and they say things like, "I'm sorry you feel that way," or "I'm sorry for this." In the case of Ryan Vanderhoek,
anything but saying, "I'm sorry I did X."
Yeah, I'm sorry for doing wrong. What I did was wrong, and I did it, and I apologize. In the case of Ryan Vanderhoek, he apologized to YouTube, and he didn't actually admit. He was very sparse in admitting that what he did was wrong, even though to listen to it, it sounded like he was showing contrition. But they give the appearance of contrition, but you have to hold them to a standard, and don't say, "Well, they're kind of by saying that they're sorry for something, like by saying that they're sorry about the way you feel, right? They're kind of giving up ground." No,
they're not giving up ground when they say, "I'm sorry about the way you feel." They're just backhandedly insinuating that maybe you're responsible for the way you feel and not them.
Yeah, it's not an apology; it's an insult. So again, I've said
a very twisted insult.
So I've said it before. When I talk about holding these people accountable, and I've said this verbatim. I'm not talking about 40 lashes in the public square. I'm talking about they don't get out of having status as a bullshitter until they
stop bullshitting.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. That's what I mean by holding people accountable.
All right. Well, Nick, you will be, I know, coming out with another video vis-a-vis Liana K. Right?
Probably not.
Probably not.
I was going to have a big name in it, but you know what? I think that's probably not going to happen, and I'm just going to move on.
All right. Well. Yeah, we've, Nick and I, we've talked about this. Anyway, Nick, I'm sure you know what's best for your situation. So, that was an important article I read there by Dean Esme. Thank you, Nick, for bringing me up to date on the latest developments there. I was not aware of that. But nevertheless, the larger thrust of what Dean is saying remains true. I mean, you are going to see this kind of behavior. You are going to see people like this cropping up. I guess the really central and most important point here is that more and more people are speaking out. The open rebellion thing is spreading, and the enemy, our enemy, has to, well, they got to stretch further and further to try to grab everybody and pull everybody into the same narrative. It's going to get harder and harder for them. And eventually, they're not going to be able to do this anymore. It just won't be feasible for them to do this anymore.
what's happening with this, them calling everyone, you know, like with this Mad Max thing, right? Saying that that
Everyone who spoke against Mad Max is a quote-unquote MRA.
yeah, and you know, and then when they got called on it, like when have you seen Angry Aussie?
No, I don't think I have.
Oh, don't spare yourself. It is painful. But he was like when he made a video about MRAs, you know, crying about the new Mad Max video. Sargon of Akkad called him out on it, and then his response was, you know, it's the response for people who have been called out on this is to say, well, they are, like him and Steve Shives both actually saying, well, they're saying that they're not MRAs, but we know that they are because they recite all those same tired old MRA talking points.
What is an MRA is the point. I mean, it's becoming increasingly unclear what is a quote MRA.
Well, I'll address that right now. It's either a men's rights activist, someone who has done activism to further the rights of men, or a men's rights advocate, someone who advocates for the rights of men. So with these,
anything you add to that is just extra baggage, right?
Yeah, they're descriptive terms, right? And people are trying to act like MRA and feminist are two ends of the same spectrum, and they're not. Because with feminism, it is about belief. As feminists themselves will tell you, they say, if you believe in equality, then you're a feminist. But you know, we have all kinds of problems with that. But by their own admission, it's about belief. Just like again with Christianity, it's about you are a Christian on the basis of what you believe. Same thing with Islam or any other.
And you're not a Christian on the basis of what you don't believe, right?
Yeah. If you don't believe certain things, then you cannot say that you are a Christian. Although and you know what those certain things are get argued about by all the little things, but you know what I mean. You know, let's say Islam, if you don't believe that Muhammad was the last prophet, and you know Allah, there's only one God, Allah, then you can't really call yourself a Muslim.
And if you don't believe that Jesus Christ was the Son of God who died for your sins, you can't call yourself a Christian.
Yeah, and so, but with men's rights activism or advocacy, it's not about belief. There's plenty of people who believe these things, but they never do any activism or advocacy, right? If they don't do activism or advocacy, then they're not men's rights activists or advocates. But it doesn't come down to belief. And I mean, like when I made my video, I am anti-feminist, that's it, and I said that I didn't care about men, and I took all kinds of heat from the MGTOW community.
I was on that video too, by the way.
Yes, yes, you were. And they were coming after me for not having the true love of men in my heart, for not really caring the way they did. You know, that right there, it's, you know, but you know, I don't have to care about people. I don't have to have certain beliefs. I have to, you know, I have to perform action. I have to, you know, put in time and actually do work, do activism and advocacy to be called that. So
you don't need to be a lover of men to be a men's rights activist or advocate.
And you don't need to hold any. You don't need to hold any beliefs. Feminism can be done very passively by simply believing certain things. As we've said, believing that women currently get or have historically gotten the short end of the stick.
Okay. And I would add to this, kind of as a tangent, that, you know, to be not a feminist, a non-feminist, it simply denotes a lack of feminism, a lack of feminist belief. And it does not require any positive belief in anything beyond the simple negation of feminism. So non-feminist is a really broad umbrella. It embraces, well, as we know, 3/4 or 4/5 or more of the human race who simply do not fit the profile of a feminist. And they can be just anything. They can be good people, they can be bad people, anywhere in between. It's the absence of feminism. It's not something that you need to defend as a group enterprise or as a collective. I mean, there's no guilt by association with 4/5 of the human race simply because you're not a feminist. However, for a feminist, the case is different. I mean, feminism is a tight group, a tight movement, and there is a certain guilt by association that applies to people who define themselves as part of the subset of humanity called feminists, or adhere to the movement known as feminism. And okay. Anyway, what do we got next? Boy, we've gone through an hour already. We've got another hour ahead of us. We'll see how much of that hour we take up. Oh, Nick, what about that Emma Sulkowicz? What do you think about that? She did that video. Did you ever see that video, by the way?
Oh, I watched it all right.
Oh, 8 minutes of it. Yeah, it was pretty sad. I mean, what she did there.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, it's pretty graphic. You know, and I mean, like, from what I understand, was the male.
Aren't people embarrassed to? I mean, the people who are not, professionals in that industry, embarrassed to put themselves out in front of the public eye like that?
What, you mean porn?
Yeah.
Well, no, no porn. Are you? I'm sorry. Are you asking if people who perform as adult entertainers are embarrassed?
No. Specifically, I said not. I said other than people who do it in a professional capacity. I mean, the average person, I think, is embarrassed to put out something like that. But
as someone who looks at a lot of porn, there are companies that make amateur porn. So they have professional equipment and everything like that, but they just get in like normal people who have never done porn before, just for people who they want to try something new, basically. So there are people who aren't professionals who do that.
So Emma Sulkowicz, who is a celebrity, a public figure at this point, she put that thing out for the whole world to see, millions of people around the earth. I guess she's not embarrassed to do that.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm trying to figure what her motives are. And I mean, if she's anything like me, and she she has the attitude that there's no such thing as bad publicity, then this is great.
Well, I guess for her, in her mind, it's great. I mean, if publicity is what she wants, then by God, she's getting it.
Yeah, and what I mean, what I'm saying with my attitude, the belief that there's no such thing as bad publicity, you have to be kind of personally flexible. And I don't know
about the light in which the public may end up seeing you.
Yeah, and I don't know if there is a feminist who is that flexible. Because, like, this is the sort of thing, like, there's been a debate as to whether or not women are funny, and Christopher Hitchens put it best, is that men are under pressure to be funny. That's why you've got more male comedians, and men on average are typically funnier than women. And part of that is that they have to be, men have to be funny. Women just have to look good. But it's also because to do clowning, like the way I did with the I Love Sluts routine, you have to be willing to look stupid to make people laugh. You really have to sell yourself as dumb, and you have to be very comfortable with a lot of people looking at you and pointing and calling you an idiot. And a lot of women just can't do that, and feminists definitely can't do that. With the rise of anti-feminist criticism, we've seen so many feminists. Like a little while ago, there was that article about they've had to leave online spaces because of all the harassment and abuse they're getting. That Paul Joseph Watson reported on. And what they mean, like, they're drawn to doing feminist activism because they figured that here's something that they could do where they could be the center of attention, and no one would dare say anything bad about them, and no one would dare criticize them. And so,
surprise.
And so now that people are, they've stopped. Now they got to go if they want to be.
They scaled it back, maybe.
Yeah, you're right.
Feminist presence on YouTube just ain't what it used to be.
No, it's not. and you can see mainstream media really just desperately trying to assert a feminist narrative. There's a show, Entertainment Television.
And Emma Salkowitz just shot them in the foot here.
You think so?
Bad, Emma. Yeah. This was a pretty bad move. Listen,
Well,
I'd like to read. There's a little intro article that Emma Salkowitz wrote along with the video, and I'd like to read this for everybody. It's pretentious drivel. It's just painfully sophomoric, but I'm going to force myself to read it anyway, and maybe somebody there can make sense out of it. Even if there is any sense to be made out of it, I don't know if it's worth making any sense out of, frankly. But here goes. This is on a website which I have not linked to because I have a certain, sense of delicacy, but you can find it. It is "Ceci n'est pas un viol," which in French means "this is not a rape." Dated June 2015. It starts off with a trigger warning. Trigger warning. The following text contains allusions to rape. Everything that takes place in the following video is consensual but may resemble rape. It is not a reenactment but may seem like one. If at any point you are triggered or upset, please proceed with caution and/or exit this website. However, I do not mean to be prescriptive, for many people find pleasure in feeling upset. "Ceci n'est pas un viol" was not about one night in August 2012. It's about your decision starting now. It's only a reenactment if you disregard my words. It's about you, not him. What the hell is she talking about? Do not watch this video if your motives would upset me, my desires are unclear to you, or my nuances are indecipherable. Well, her nuances are indecipherable, and I did watch the video. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble now.
Yeah. Don't watch it if you. This is only intended for certain people. You who don't agree with me, don't watch it. Okay.
You might be wondering why I've made myself this vulnerable. Yeah, that thought had crossed my mind. Look, I want to change the world, and that begins with you seeing yourself. She wants to change the world. Well, I think she might end up changing the world. You know, really. Maybe not in the way she had in mind. I don't know, but I think this could have some kind of an impact toward changing the world. If you watch this video without my consent, maybe I should have written to her first. If you watch this video without my consent, then I hope you reflect on your reasons for objectifying me and participating in my rape. For in that case, you were the one who couldn't resist the urge to make "Ceci n'est pas un viol" about what you wanted to make it about. Rape. I have no idea, no fucking clue what the hell she's talking about here.
Maybe a possible meaning is that if you're watching, because she knows that she's faced a lot of criticism for this. Maybe she means that if you're one of the people who criticize her, if you're critical of feminism, then you're raping her by watching it. That is a possible interpretation of what she's saying.
Yeah. That's likely because rape means just about anything. Rape means just about anything. Yeah, anything can be raped. When I saw my father slapping my mother, I was raped. Please don't participate in my rape. Watch kindly. A special thank you to everyone who made "Ceci n'est pas un viol" possible, especially my actor, blank, my director, Ted Lawson, and those I love who have guided and supported me. So, the actor is the man she appears to be having sex with in this video. A rather overweight-looking character with his face blurred out. And his name is omitted here. Okay, now the article, the statement here carries on. She says, here are a few questions to help you reflect. Bullet point, searching. Are you searching for proof? Proof of what? Are you searching for ways to either hurt or help me? What are you looking for? Well, I can answer that question right away. I wasn't looking for anything. I was just looking to find out what's going on. So I get information. Bullet point, desiring. Do you desire pleasure? Do you desire revulsion? Is this to counteract your unconscious enjoyment? What do you want from this experience? Well, same as above, just information. Bullet point, me. How well do you think you know me? Have we ever met? Do you think I'm the perfect victim or the world's worst victim? Do you refuse to see me as either a human being or a victim? If so, why? Is it to deny me agency and thus further victimize me? If so, what do you think of the fact that you owe your ability to do so to me, since I'm the one who took a risk and made myself vulnerable in the first place?
Hold on.
Do you hate me? If so, how does it feel to hate me? Yeah, go ahead.
If we don't, hold on. If we back up to the part about removing her agency, how did she think that?
Okay, let me read that again. Do you refuse to see me as either a human being or a victim? If so, why? Is it to deny me? Is it to deny me agency and thus further victimize me?
So she's asking the question: if people refuse to see her as a victim or a human being, to remove her agency. So if you don't look at her the way she wants you to, then you are taking away her agency.
I don't follow that at all. I'm sorry.
I can tell you exactly what the feminist logic behind that is. If she can't tell you what to think, then that is an infringement on her agency.
Oh, her agency being defined as her being able to tell you what to think.
That's right. So this comes back down to if anybody ever watches Going Mental, or now it's called Say Goodbye to Crazy, with Tara Palmalte and Paul Elam. They talk about people with borderline personality disorder as they don't see their own abuse as abusive, but they see any resistance to that abuse as abusive, and they really want to control other people. So it comes as no surprise to me that someone like this would see their inability to tell other people what to think as them not having personal agency, or to treat that as someone else removing their personal agency by not doing what she tells them.
Okay. That's hard to follow, man. That's hard to follow. So it ends up with, do you hate me? If so, how does it feel to hate me? I don't know. I don't hate her. I want to say I pity her. I just think she's just a repulsive specimen. I mean...
And how does that make you feel?
Well, repulsed, I guess. Yeah, well, anyway, this whole statement, like I said, it's a bunch of pretentious drivel, and this is what kids are going to college for these days, so they can write stuff like this. By clicking play, I hereby verify that I am at least 18 years of age and that I have a parent's or guardian's permission to watch this video. Okay, and then there is a long, long, long list of comments there, which are sort of interesting, and they're almost all, in fact, I think totally all, negative. So, to wrap this up, Emma Sulkowicz, Mattress Girl, whom we've all heard of by now, performance artist. She's performed some more art here. And she's made a total ass of herself. That's just my opinion. And she's given feminism a black eye. She has basically rendered herself useless as any kind of moral ammunition for feminism, as if she wasn't useless enough already. I mean, this really puts a cap on it right now. This seals it. I mean, the mattress thing, that was bad enough, but then she comes up with this stunt here, and that's it. I mean, she is another disgrace in the annals of feminism, and another flaming proof of why we don't need feminism, because this is what feminism gives us. Feminism gives us people like Emma Sulkowicz doing the kinds of things that people like Emma Sulkowicz do. Feminism gives these people a platform, gives them a stage, it empowers them. So this was, we can chalk this one up to 2015, the year 2015. The year 2014 was such a banner year. We had all those things happening. That, in my opinion, that year was the year when anti-feminism went mainstream, because feminism shot itself in the foot I don't know how many times in the course of that year. And anyway, so Emma Sulkowicz's little movie, the mattress thing was for 2014, but Emma Sulkowicz's little movie, that goes down under 2015. And the year is still, you know, not even halfway through, so I'm waiting for big, exciting things to happen before this year is out, to pound more nails into feminism's coffin. So, enough of that. I'm getting depressed now. All right. Cue number 3 from Breitbart.com. Let's look at that now. Breitbart.com. Renowned author calls out Randy Harper's Amazon trolling. This is a trend they're using now. It's review bullying. People go to websites to review books, and feminists will come in there and bully the reviewers with bullying reviews. Bogus reader reviews have long been a problem for websites like Amazon and Goodreads. Intended as a mechanism to allow readers to dabble in literary criticism, their accessibility has left them vulnerable to political and personal vendettas. Despite the efforts of Amazon to stamp out the practice on its website, a recent controversy involving Vampire Chronicles author Anne Rice and an infamous online activist suggests it remains a hot-button issue for authors. The topic has attracted renewed attention due to the involvement of Randy Harper, a controversial activist, in an apparent review trolling campaign against a book by the technologist Vivek Wadhwa on Amazon. Harper has previously been accused of using her position as CEO of the Online Abuse Prevention Initiative as a means to divert attention from her own bullying behavior on social media. And many of her critics are presenting this as another key example in a trail of controversy. This is really good. An anti-bullying, anti-abuse activist has been an abusing bully. Interesting how that works out. Critics of Harper, such as the blogger Stephanie Green, have previously drawn attention to her behavior on social media, in particular her penchant for setting online mobs against political opponents. Harper has also been observed telling critics to, quote, get fucked and, quote, set themselves on fire. In one well-known case, a woman was driven to tears after being set upon by Harper and her supporters. So, Gamergate, anybody? Isn't this what Gamergaters are supposed to be doing, supposedly?
You know, the bit about telling critics to get fucked, that's something that I could be heard to do. But I certainly wouldn't tell anyone to set themselves on fire. Holy cow.
Well, it's still not as bad as threatening to set them on fire.
Yeah.
Or wishing that somebody else would set them on fire. Or actually setting them on fire.
yeah, still, it's pretty nasty thing to say, I think.
So this is a feminist, social justice warrior, anti-Gamergate person, and by the way, Randy Harper seems to make her living in the computer games industry, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, all of the bad stuff that you hear about Gamergate, Gamergaters, is being routinely practiced by anti-Gamergaters. But somehow that doesn't matter. Somehow it's okay when they do it, but it's not okay when Gamergaters do it, even though it's highly doubtful that Gamergaters do it. See what we're up against here? See what we're dealing with? Critics of Harper, such as the blogger Stephanie Green, have previously drawn attention to her behavior on social media, in particular, her penchant for setting online mobs. Okay, I read that paragraph already. This sort of abuse is not uncommon on social media, of course, but it is certainly strange behavior for someone who claims to campaign against online abuse. Breitbart has covered Harper's controversy before, in particular, her creation of a Twitter auto-blocking tool that claimed to block trolls and abusers, but in fact targeted innocent academics, journalists, and business people, as well as, bizarrely, Kentucky Fried Chicken. So she doesn't want Colonel Sanders following her on Twitter. Well, that's sad. We've got some notes on Randy Harper here. Randy Harper is 33 years old. She is an engineer at a video game development company in San Francisco. She says that the culture war rages every day online. Says that the tech industry has not always been friendly to women. And I assume she means that the tech industry has not always been friendly to women like her. And I don't blame the tech industry for not being friendly to women like Randy Harper. If I was the tech industry, I don't think I would be very friendly to women like Randy Harper. So, Gamergate Auto Blocker, that was a software application that she built, which blocks you as a Twitter follower. You cannot follow her on Twitter. You cannot read her tweets on Twitter. I got blocked by Randy Harper because I sent her a tweet, and her auto blocker must have instantly scanned all my information and found two people that I'm following that are, some of the bad Gamergator people, I guess. And I've got, I'm following, I don't know how many people, I'm following a lot of people. Anyway, instantly I was blocked. I went there, I looked at her timeline, not a problem. I tweeted something at her. Instantly I was blocked and unable to read her timeline anymore or follow her. So that little application she built is pretty good. It works, and it works fast. So, Kentucky Fried Chicken, okay, they blocked Colonel Sanders. The latest controversy involves her participation in an online shaming campaign against the prominent technologist Vivek Wadhwa. The website Stop the Goodreads Bullies, which tracks cases of book review abuse, recently highlighted a review of one of his books by Harper, in which she accuses Wadhwa, an outspoken advocate of diversity in tech, of trying to profit off feminism and silence women. Crucially, the review did not discuss the content of Wadhwa's book, which Harper later admitted she did not actually read. Okay? Randy Harper did not actually read his book. Interesting. And yet he is trying to profit off feminism and silence women. Amazon, which has recently been trying to clamp down on review abuse, removed Harper's review after it was reported to them. Okay, here we have a case of feminism and the social justice warrior community auto-cannibalizing. Now, this Vivek Wadhwa was or is, by all accounts, a very progressive feminist male. He's all for women's rights and everything. He's everything you could ask for, and yet he is being pitbulled by this Randy Harper. I mean, we have people in the same community setting upon each other and ripping each other's throats out. So, I don't know, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it depends on what side of the fence you're on. It's probably a bad thing for them. To someone unfamiliar with the topic, it may sound like a storm in a teacup, but authors take the gaming of online reviews very seriously, especially if it is suspected that such reviews are the result of a vendetta or a public shaming campaign. This certainly seems to have been what happened in the case of Vivek Wadhwa, who was facing a concerted attack from activists across the blogosphere when his Amazon page became a target. So it was a whole lynch mob that went after the guy. It wasn't entirely surprising when Anne Rice, the world-famous author of the Vampire Chronicles, caught wind of the controversy. Anne Rice has been a supporter of Stop the Goodreads Bullies for some time and regularly links to their posts on her Facebook and Twitter accounts. In an interview with Canadian broadcaster CBC earlier this year, Rice drew attention to the emails she had received from authors and reviewers about gangs of review trolls on Amazon. "It's unbelievable," said Rice. "I got an email from one writer who said all she did was review a book by an author they were targeting, and they came after her like hornets. All you got to do is review a book by an author they don't like, and they're going to get you too." They descended on her own books and neg-voted the good reviews and flooded it with one-line bad reviews. Rice emphasized that her own works were too well known to be under threat, but that review trolls were a huge problem for younger, independently published authors. Well, we're looking at a force here which is out of control. After using her Twitter account to draw attention to Harper's behavior, Rice came into contact with her own swarm of internet hornets. As soon as news of Rice's post began to spread, allies of Harper began deluging the 73-year-old author with hysterical accusations, calling her toxic and a cyber terrorist. Elsewhere, the controversial columnist Arthur Chu, now there's a familiar name, Arthur Chu, another longtime ally of Harper, took the opportunity to inflame the situation by posting another bogus review under Wadhwa's Amazon page. The website of Stop the Goodreads Bullies also came under attack after Harper and her followers became involved with concerted efforts by anonymous reviewers to lower the site's score on website safety rankings. Rice, who has seen many controversies during her 42-year writing career, is unperturbed. In an email to Breitbart, Rice emphasized that she had no interest in Harper or her followers as individuals and wanted to focus on tackling the wider issue of bully tactics on Amazon. "I have no particular interest in Ms. Harper," wrote Rice. "My concern has always been bullying on book review sites and online bookstores." She wrote a review, which was not a review, but a personal attack on the author. It was reported and removed. The issue has never been whether this is a nice person or a bad person. The issue is honest, authentic customer reviews as opposed to bully attacks. Responding to claims that she had banned Harper from her Facebook page, Rice said, "I found her posts to my page combative and hostile and disruptive, so I deleted and banned her. Again, it's the issue that matters." The criticism from Rice and Stop the Goodreads Bullies is yet another blow to Harper, who claims to be an online abuse activist. Whose claims to be an online abuse activist were already under severe scrutiny. Her involvement with bogus Amazon reviews, which have recently become a major issue in the sci-fi community as well, will reinforce claims that her purported opposition to online abuse is simply a mask for her own bully tactics. In the murky world of online controversies, the name Randy Harper is becoming increasingly notorious. End of article. Well, Nick, what do you think about all of that?
I wish I could say I was surprised. There's actually an episode of South Park about bullying. It's about how anti-bullying advocacy groups bully schools into accepting their programs, and that's what that reminded me of. Is this anti-bullying crusader who goes around bullying people over reviewing books she doesn't like, or reviewing authors bullying people who review books by authors that she doesn't like. So it doesn't. Again, it just seems like more of the same to me. I don't really have any terribly in-depth commentary for that.
Well, it's pretty basic. I mean, the guilty dog barks the loudest. Sometimes the guilty dog barks the loudest, and we got a lot of guilty dogs who are barking way too loud these days. What are we going to do about all those guilty dogs? Anyway, we have passed the hour-and-a-half mark on the program. Recently, some interesting things have happened in Ottawa. Isn't that right, Nick?
Sorry, my microphone was muted there. Yes, there have been. Recently, there was the CAFE, the Canadian Association for Equality, opened up a chapter in University of Ottawa, which is where our good friend Janice Fiamengo holds tenure. And as usual, a group from, what are they called? The Revolutionary Students Movement? No, they're called the Proletarian Feminist Front.
Haven't heard of them before.
Yeah, it's actually where your confusion comes from is that the Revolutionary Student Movement of the University of Ottawa shared the message from Proletarian Feminist Front, Ottawa, and it says. Now, their version of events, the proletarian feminist version of events, says, today men's rights activists in Ottawa were disrupted once again. Now, I would like everyone to know that the Canadian Association for Equality says right on their webpage that they are not men's rights activists and that they are not anti-feminist. But today men's rights activists in Ottawa were disrupted once again. Or rather, they say that the Canadian Association for Equality is not a men's rights activist group. Today, men's rights activists in Ottawa were disrupted once again. Thanks to everyone who showed up today to prevent CAFE from holding its inaugural event at risk of your own safety. We were also able to engage with some attendees with our flyers, debunking MRA myths and explaining the real sources of men's issues. Hint: it's not feminism or women's studies programs. While the organizers kept up a professional face, their true colors were shown as we left and were attacked with anti-Semitic slurs, homophobic slurs, and sexual harassment, with cameras aggressively shoved in our faces at every angle and men dancing around us, hurling insults from Bolshevik to Nazi. We expect to see great videos coming out soon. We give no platform to MRAs, no matter how they couch their pro-patriarchal position in liberal human rights language. Now, what actually happened, as you can see, I'm pretty sure there's a link to the YouTube video.
There is. Attention, everybody. This would be cue number 4.
Yeah, and it got 21,000 views the first day it was up.
And it's got how many now? A lot more.
I don't even know. But it's definitely gone viral for sure. What happened was a couple, like the guy started off saying how great it was. He's seeing new friends and and old faces, and then all of a sudden, a little group of, like, when I say punks, I don't mean that as an insult. I mean punk rockers in their attire. They start banging. They do their usual routine of banging noisemakers and making as much noise as possible.
They blew on one of those little plastic horns.
Yeah, they had.
That was the first thing I heard in the video. The guy was talking, giving a nice speech, and suddenly, there comes this blast of the trumpet.
Yeah, and they like rattles and all kinds of stuff. And there's a guy who gets up and he does put a camera right in one of their faces, but I mean, like, they're being complete assholes and just sitting there making noise so that this guy can't talk. And then they're being all tough, and then people talk about calling. Oh, and there's one guy putting a camera right up to them. This one girl actually tries to grab it and pull it away from him.
I know, I saw that.
I would really like to see. Oh, anyway, so so that happens, and then the people talk about calling the cops, and then that little group of kids takes off, and so then they start talking again. But then a second group is there to start making noise again, and then eventually they wait for the police to come, and the police tell them to fuck off.
Politely, of course.
Yeah, they are
Canadian police. Okay.
Yeah, they didn't tell them to fuck off. They told them to they told them to leave, which they did, and of course they denied doing what they were doing, and
And where is there evidence for the sexual harassment and homophobia and all of that?
There isn't any.
There isn't any. Okay.
Anyway. Well, I mean, saying that they're people comparing them to Nazis. That I actually did hear that, but
that's a comparison that I would be tempted to make. I don't mind saying.
Well, no, when the Nazis took over, they didn't just sit there and make noise. They would,
Well, in their earlier stages, they used tactics like that. I mean, come on.
Well, they also like, prior to the Nazis rising, there were all kinds of different, very, very passionate political movements going on in Germany, and they would get into their political fights in bars, and the brown shirts were just the most ass-kickingest fighters, I guess. It wasn't a matter of I really don't think they did stuff like that, but I could be wrong.
I don't think they're physically capable of doing what Nazis did, but I mean, as far as their moral fiber, I don't see a hell of a lot of difference.
No. Well, so that happened, and I would really like to see, and I'm probably going to be making a video to this effect. I would really like to see those people being identified and having their images, their likenesses, and their identities all over the internet, just like the same way we did with Big Red, right? And no one to this date, no one has harmed Big Red. No one has physically attacked her. When I say that I want these people identified, it's not because I want them physically attacked. I just want them held to account for the stupid shit that they've done. Because a lot of them are young kids, like they're pretty young, they're teenagers, right? And when I was looking at that, I was actually thinking back to my social justice warrior youth, I'm really glad I'm 30 years old, because if I had been born 15 years earlier, or maybe 10 years later, rather.
Yeah, later.
10 years later, I would probably be one of these kids now.
Man, yeah. I'm sorry to hear that.
Just doing stupid shit. So I don't want them to get beaten. I don't want them to lose jobs over this. But I do want it shoved in their faces. Right, I do want them to be reminded of, like, you went out and you abridged another person's right to freedom of speech or freedom of expression, rather, just because you disagreed with them, and that, as Janice Fiamengo put it, that is silencing dissent is the trademark of a totalitarian ideology.
It's a marker.
I think so. I think that there's time for a lot of these young kids to reflect on what they've done, and I don't think that they're just doomed to be social justice warriors for the rest of their lives. But I think that there should be a punishment. There should be a social punishment, like we've doled out to Big Red. That when you show up and you treat anti-feminists in this way just because they're anti-feminists, you look like a complete idiot, and proof of you acting like a complete idiot really should be preserved and shown to others who would come and try to do this stuff, right? Because I don't think any of these people wants to be the next Big Red. They don't want to be the next giant laughing stock of the internet. And that's the kind of punishment that I think we should dole out. I think that's perfectly humane and fitting.
Well, at the same time, I've got to thank them that they continually provide us with this kind of drama.
Yeah, really. I mean, I've spoken with people who really don't, like, when I said that I didn't care about men and then I just wanted to fight feminism, I've spoken to other people who are like, yeah, they don't really care about they don't particularly care about the arguments being made or about the people being harmed by this. But when you see people trying to express their ideas and get shut down by force like this, you sympathize with them automatically. I've spoken to people who have come out to Men's Rights Edmonton meetings and been like, yeah, I saw the footage of the Warren Farrell protests, and oh my God, how can people act like this? That's really the main impetus for them joining the fight.
Mm-hmm. And this latest thing in Ottawa, that was Toronto on a much smaller scale. They couldn't get those Toronto numbers out for this occasion, but they did the best they could.
Well, and I mean, if they had, first of all, if they know that they have a lot of eyes on them, and actually, you know that I got this is public. I mean, it's out there on the internet. There was a guy who was involved in the revolutionary communist student movement on the campuses, who was involved in most of the anti-MRA demonstrations, and I think including the Warren Farrell one. And he, because of Gamergate, he started taking a look at anti-feminist arguments, and he's now seen the light. So he's no longer a communist. He's no longer into feminism, and he no longer talks to those people. But the thing is, I think if they were to organize a massive protest like they were with the Warren Farrell thing, then that would get a lot of police attention. It would get a lot of attention prior to the fact, which they don't want. Because people could infiltrate it, people could show up with cameras and record them and things like that. It's really the same thing with before I go and do a demonstration at a slut walk, I don't want to announce to the world, hey guys, I'm planning on showing up at a slut walk. Can anybody tell me what plans they have? Because then you'd be announcing your strategy beforehand, and you don't want the opponent to know that. And secondly, if they showed up with a massive mob of people, then again they would be blocked, right? So really, what they've been doing the last few times, the last time they interrupted Janice Fiaming, or no, it wasn't Janice Fiaming, it was the Russian guy, the guy who came to talk about men's issues in Russia. That a professor brought a little group of students in to make noise and prevent them from speaking. And that's what happened this time. And this time their tactics. It is important to watch what they do, because you watch the way their tactics are updated, right? This time they had the one group. They made the noise, and then they got pushed out, and so people thought that it was over. And then there was a second contingent, that was there to start up noise again. And eventually they were kicked out. But their strategy is just to prolong the amount of disruption that goes on. So they can't approach with a giant frontal assault with a giant army. But they can send in a few companies just to disrupt things and try to stymie it for as long as they can. But in any case, what it comes down to is they are trying to prevent information from being disseminated. And that's all it is. And we are trying to disseminate information, and they are trying to prevent us from disseminating that information. And I think that really, when you look at that, when you look at the fact that that is the structure of the game, is that we are the offense and they are the defense, in the sense that they are defending people from hearing dangerous ideas, and we are trying to get those ideas out to them. It's a lot like when you read about the South Koreans trying to, like, they try to get information to North Koreans by, like, sending hot air balloons with little messages over the over the border. You know, you've got a giant administration trying to keep information from Northern Korea, and you've got South Koreans trying to liberate the minds of North Koreans by sending them message. So they're you've got the communist regime there playing defense against harmful ideas.
Okay. Well, I don't know if they could have would have been able to get out the numbers for this event that they got up for Toronto. I don't know if their circles, if their peer group would have been motivated enough really to turn out in great riotous lynch mob numbers for this particular event. But and that wouldn't have been good strategy anyway. I think they did the best they could, and they got a small group of people in there to make a bunch of noise. Now, what they were trying to accomplish by doing that, were they really trying to shut down the event? Really, they shot themselves in the foot. I mean, they came off looking bad, and they made the cafe people look like the good guys and look like the martyrs. So, if these people, these enemies of ours, have any useful quality, it's that they can be depended upon time and time again to make fools of themselves. And they do that very reliably.
Oh yeah, and this,
it's.
I wanted to make another. I mean, it's kind of like that spiral that I have of them getting crazier and crazier. I wanted to make another spiral, but I don't want to just make a bunch of spiral videos about them. You know, like the way they constantly alienate people with their behavior. But I guess that would just be the same spiral that I put up, the feminist, non-feminist cooperation spiral.
Well, another thing about them is that they can't hold their breath forever. I mean, when they realize that they've made an ass of themselves, you know, they'll shut up for a while, they'll try to tone it down, but eventually they can't take the pressure anymore. You know, the whale has got to surface to blow its spout.
Yeah, that is. If we only have about 9 minutes left, that is something that I wanted to talk about. You and I have talked about this a lot. We call it the ebb and flow, but for the benefit of our listeners, what it is that they know that if they give us, if anything they do to resist us, they know it's just going to, as you say, shoot them in the foot. It's just going to give us attention, and people who haven't heard about us before are likely to say, hey, they make a good point, and feminists don't like that, so they don't want to give us attention. So they go as long as they can without openly resisting us, but then they see that we're operating unmolested, and they just can't handle that. You know, they can hold that. They can hold back.
We're advancing. We're operating unmolested, and by operating unmolested, we're moving forward with our plans.
Yeah, and they don't like
that. At which point they say, hey, you know, we got to do something here.
And the thing is, they're motivated. Like they're acting in a blind rage when they do this. That's the thing to remember. Because if they were thinking rationally, they would just stay away, right? Like with this is what
they would send some people there to spy. They would send some people there to report on it, and then they would come out with some biased statement against it.
Well, let's not let's not make them any better at what they do. But
what are you afraid I'm going to give them ideas?
Well, they certainly can't come up with them on their own. Oh, but Brian Martinez said something about this when I interviewed the Honey Badgers about what happened at Calex. He said that the thing is, the Honey Badgers wouldn't have gotten the huge amount of press that they did if feminists just let them show up to the Calgary Expo and talk with their fans and just do nerd stuff. Right?
No,
but they had to oppose them. They had to oppose them, and it blew up in their fucking faces the same way it does every single time.
That's the problem with being on the wrong side of history, you know. History is a bitch.
Yep.
Well, I think we're down to the last 5 minutes here, so I think we need to wrap it up for episode number 51 of the Vanguard Report. Let's see. Anything we want to say before we wrap it up? Oh, yes, you can get a hold of us by email at vanguardreport@usa.com. That'd be Q number 6. Right there on your queue list. If you want to contact us for any reason at all, love us, hate us, we love it all. That's our address, vanguardreport@usa.com. Look at Q number 5 on your list. That is the Strict Anti-Feminist Manifesto. It's got some current philosophy about where all this is headed. It's there at Q number 5. Go there, read that if you feel so inclined. And this has been Vanguard Report number 51. Nick, say goodbye to everybody.
Yeah, everybody, again, mensrightsedmonton.com. If you're in Edmonton, if you know anyone in Edmonton, if you want to help, or if you want to start up your own local men's rights or anti-feminist or whatever organization, contact me. I can help you. Go to the Contact Us section at www.mensrightsedmonton.com. Good night, everybody.
Okay, in other words, I think Nick is saying if you want to join the resistance, and the resistance can take so many forms. Remember, anti-feminism is for everybody now. It's going mainstream. We're entering the stage of open rebellion, but we need to work this deep into the cultural fabric, deep into the grassroots. So the formation of local groups is something that we need to look into and we need to take action upon. We'll talk about that some other time. Anyway, let's wrap up Vanguard Report number 51. We'll be back next week with Vanguard Report number 52. In the meantime, everybody, always remember, feminism is what we say it is, not what the dictionary says it is. It is what we say it is. We're a better source of authority on the subject, on the question of what is feminism, than the dictionary. The dictionary is just about useless for telling you what feminism is. So feminism is what we say it is. And we'll see you next week. Everybody, bye for now.